Gather round, children, an old person is talking. I was just thinking back on a thing and I realised it's a particular millennial experience that people of other generations won't necessarily be familiar with, so I thought I'd tell the story to the larger audience. I like music. You know, music. I like it, don't I? I do. And being from ancient history, I have some music stored on like CDs. It's a kind of disc, a round thing, and they put the music on there and you just look at it. But if you're a millennial, you don't just look at it, you can actually rip it off in a format known as MP3. Or WMA if you belong to Microsoft. And then you've got the music without the disc. You've just got it in cyberspace. All 12 tracks from the album, you can just access them at any point without even looking at the CD. Technology is amazing. But what do you do with it then? Well, believe it or not, as a teenager I had friends. Online friends. And we shared tastes, so we shared tastes. We would chat online on MSN Messenger, which was a kind of primitive cave painting system. You could also send MP3s between the people in the conversation. Within an hour-long conversation, which was how long you could connect to the internet for before you had to pay the supplier or mum wanted to use the phone. Within that hour-long conversation, you could send almost 2 MP3 songs. You could recommend music to your friends and tell them to check this out. It was a kind of mixtape, you know, like really old people did mixtapes. I did mixtapes. But not quite like a mixtape, because it was one by one. You'd choose a track, you'd send that track. So they're unlikely to be appraised as a collective. There was a big habit of listening to one track on loop. I didn't do that particularly, but other people did. You could tell because it said after their MSN Messenger name what they were listening to. It would just be the same song on repeat. These were friends I made on forums. Forums often about music taste, so it was people interested in similar things to you and they could kind of branch out your tastes that way. I definitely got into Suede that way. There was an online friend who had a cool older brother who had really good music taste. And I'm pretty sure it was Animal Nitrate I started on with. Guy Peter's Bun! By the way, this means of sharing music was technically piracy. You know, we didn't pay for the things we received. It wasn't really Kazaa-like levels, but... I've just admitted to a crime on YouTube. If the music police want to come and get me, my name is Ben Shapiro. That's Ben Shapiro. If I seem to be resisting arrest, just tell me that facts don't care about my feelings. Ben Shapiro. But to the extent that this was piracy, it was kind of just a little free sample of something bigger. I like albums. I went out and bought the albums on CD, you know, CDs with music on them. And most of my music taste grew from there. There wasn't really much real life interaction that brought me my music taste. It was online interactions like that. I mean, sure, I didn't buy every single album that I liked the individual tracks from, but, you know, the ones I actually liked the sound of. Epitaph Records had a good setup, so everyone was familiar with some artists from Epitaph because they appeared on the Tony Hawk's video games, Bad Religion, The Distillers. Lots of really good punk rock on there, and at the time, Epitaph Records had free download MP3s on their website, just a few tracks from each artist, and that was a good little free sample, and I really like that method. I mean, that's kind of what people have always done by releasing singles as a means of kind of advertising their album. You know, the single is out there, you can hear it, and yeah, you can buy the single, that was a thing, but the end game for them was immersive fandom, and you would get that by putting a bit more money in to get a bit more reward. So giving a little bit of it away free made sense, because then people would probably end up putting money in for the whole thing. It'd be worth it. All of my music is available for free online. One consequence of this setup is that people are going to end up really loving individual tracks that weren't ever like the lead singles or anything. I was speaking to a friend about this whole thing earlier, and she mentioned how she dug the track Baby Dracula by Skylink, which I sent to her at some point, and I barely know how that one goes, but it's one that I sent to her, and that really kind of informed her tastes as far as that bit of the taste goes. That became a seminal track. Don't say seminal. One of those for me. I have no idea who sent me this, but somewhere deep in the My Music folder on Windows on one of my old computers, there was always the track Gyroscope by the Tea Party, and I really like it. I would just get back into it occasionally, and many years later I bothered actually getting into the Tea Party in general. That's the band, not the political party or an actual, the Mad Hatter thing, the band. So that one was a matter of years, but now I'm really into the Tea Party, so I think this is an experience quite unique to millennials, because before we were online enough to be able to send MP3s, we weren't online enough to be able to send MP3s. And now it's pretty much obsolete because everyone consumes their music through streaming, don't you? You like streaming, don't you? All of my music is available to stream for free online. And now even MP3 files feel a bit fiddly to actually have. I mean, of course, I have them. I have bloody CDs. I am not with the times. But I kind of like it that way. I mean, there's the whole thing with CDs about, like, you've got the booklet to look at. I do think I revere stuff more when it's in that format, and that also works with MP3s versus streaming, because even though it's been kind of ripped of its physical possession status, it's still a digital possession when you've got an MP3, when you've got a collection of like hundreds of gigabytes of music in MP3 format on your hard drive, then that's kind of your possession. I mean, it's legally your possession. My name's Colin's surname, and I follow the law. Upstanding citizen Colin's surname. When I was bad, that's when I was Ben Shapiro. The bad stuff. That's Ben. And the streaming structure removes that idea of music as property of the listener, which makes sense in the context of songs. Songs can't belong to the listener, and of course you can clone the same file many times, but saying that it belongs to the label or the streaming service is kind of yucky too. I mean, that's worse. That's corporate ownership. I'm just telling this story in case anyone didn't realize that this was a thing and is no longer really a thing. I mean, maybe it's still a thing for some people, but it had its moment culturally. This particular way of sharing and recommending music that had specific outcomes. It made us revere individual songs in that way, like a mixtape, but one by one. I'd better get back to being really old. So old. So old. Really, really old.